Hey, how's it going? This is the week 2 video response. We're all going to be talking about missionary pilots this week. So I thought it might be helpful to define the term a little bit going into it. If a missionary pilot is not just somebody that flies missionaries around, what are they? I came up with the definition that they're somebody that uses aviation resources, whether that be fixed-wing or roto-wing aircraft, to transport, of course, missionaries, but also medical professionals, medical supplies, human relief personnel, food, clean drinking water, any other supplies these individuals might need to remote, undeveloped, or disaster-ridden areas of the world. So they're not just doing missionary work where they're planting churches or transporting missionaries to remote areas, but they're also engaged in a lot of human relief effort in places like Haiti or the Dominican, where they've had hurricanes, or they're a third world country and they've had some sort of other natural disaster and they need relief also. It looks like there's a handful of organizations out there that I came across that are engaged in this kind of thing. Some of them were mentioned in the overview video originally. The IAMA, International Association of Ministry Aviation, Missionary Flights International, Mission Aviation Fellowship, Ethnos 360 Aviation. These are some of the big ones I came across. I'm sure there's probably more beyond that out there that have the same goal and engage in the same work. One of these websites, they were talking about why there's a need for missionary aviation and why they introduce an additional element of logistics into what they're trying to do with limited resources. One of their pilots said, in the rugged mountains and rainforests of Papua New Guinea, your two choices are a rigorous 2-day hike or an 8-minute flight from the nearest airstrip. These are the only two options available to missionaries who live here. So their purpose, and a lot of other organizations like this purpose, I think, is you're in a third world country somewhere that's really remote. You can't just drive where you want to go. Your two options are by aircraft, which is relatively easy and quick, or pulling out your machete and going through the jungle. And for obvious reasons, the former is much more desirable. The qualifications to be missionary pilots seem like they're pretty across the board for most, within 100 or 2 hours total time, I think, for all of them. They want you to have your commercial ticket, your commercial pilot certificate. They want you to have an instrument rating, about 500 hours total time. Some of them have pilot and command requirement also. The big thing, and universal across the board, I saw this, was they all want you to have an A&P certificate, an airframe and power plant mechanic certificate from the FAA. So obviously it makes sense, right? If you're going to be out in somewhere remote part of the world, you want to be able to work on the aircraft if it breaks down. But it's not so simple as you're out in the middle of nowhere and the engine blows up and now you're the mechanic and you got to fix it. A lot of these organizations also employ full-time M&P mechanics, from what it seems to me, and they also want all their pilots to be M&P certified, but more for the reason that if your pilot is M&P certified, you can take care of the little more routine, time-consuming things, like an annual inspection or a 50-hour inspection, or changing out spark plugs or something simple like that. And that'll give you the opportunity to let your full-time A&P mechanic work on something like an engine overhaul, and then they don't have to stop doing what they're doing to take care of the more routine things. I think the big difference between talking about airline pilots last week and talking about missionary pilots this week is that airline pilot is a career. That's something you go into for long term. It's something you at least are going to attempt to make a successful living at, whereas missionary pilot is just that. It's a ministry. You're going to do it because you believe in what's going on and you feel like there's a calling on your life for that. One theme that I saw really through most of the organizations was raising your own financial support. So they might kind of help you and give you some networking opportunities, but they're going to want you to go out there and get churches or organizations or individuals or whoever you can to try to give you monetary support, so that while you're out there doing this, you can afford to feed yourself at the same time, or pay your bills, or take care of a family if you have a family. There was an interview I read from one of the Mission Aviation Fellowship pilots on a website called General Aviation News. It was kind of interesting. It wasn't very long, but he'd been doing it for about 13 years, and he answered a lot of really interesting questions about what the lifestyle is like and where they recruit pilots from. But overall, I would say that's the biggest thing that I took away from it, is that it's a ministry, and you're going to go into it because you believe in what's going on and you want to be a part of that. So That's what I got this week. Thanks for watching.